Hello, I'm Gemma Cadogan, and alongside Alex Lewis, we are the NNCO project managers at HEFKey. This is a presentation that we'd like to give you today about the monitoring returns for 2014-15, or year one of the NNCO scheme. So by way of background, and this will be a very short summary because you'll all be aware of it, we have £22 million for the scheme over two academic years, 2014-15 and 2015-16. The primary aim of the scheme is to bring together universities and colleges into networks to provide coordinated outreach to schools and colleges. NNCO funding can be broadly split into three categories. There are 35 local networks, 3 national networks, so these are Oxford and Cambridge, one led by the Open University which works with adults, and NNCO which looks and works with care leavers. 11 projects as well. In terms of the use of funding, this can be broadly split into three categories. The core funding, which goes to the lead institutions and we sometimes refer to as the flat rate funding, was £120,000 in 2014-15 and £136,000 in 2015-16. This is provided to support the infrastructure of the network, so it can be used for resourcing, so for example employing the SPOC and the support that the SPOC might need, developing a website and any other technical overheads. Numbers of partners receive funding from the institutional formula allocation, and the network membership collectively decide how to use these contributions. We recognise that there are different modes of operations between the different networks. And at the very end of the scheme, so in December 2016, we'll be asking individual institutions to provide statements of assurance that the funds have been used in support of the network. This will be collected by the SPOC at the end of the scheme, but you don't need to worry about that at this stage in year one. And finally, there's funding and investment that you can provide from your own resources. So for example, you may choose to use some money from access agreements or from your student opportunity allocation. So we've included this slide on monitoring and evaluation to be clear that these are two separate strands of the NNCO scheme. We've appointed an evaluation team led by IPSI, based at London Met, and SEER, based at Sheffield Hallam University, to evaluate the scheme. The aim of this is assessing the network's value beyond existing activity in terms of enabling coordinated, efficient, and effective outreach within schools and colleges. HEFKey has a role in ensuring the appropriate use of public funding, and you'll be aware that this is approximately £11 million in the first year of the scheme. And this is the key reason for our interest and need to monitor the progress. We believe that these are complementary activities and we hope that they'll provide us with the strongest evidence base going forward. It's worth noting that the IPSI and SEER evaluation team will be submitting an interim evaluation report to HEFKey in October. Alongside this, Alex Lewis and myself will be preparing a summary report of the monitoring returns that you're due to send to us. Both of these will be made available on the HEFKey website by December. So why are we doing this? In addition to providing assurance about funding, we're also carrying out monitoring to understand more about the background and context for the network, confirming that the key outputs for the networks are in place, and providing information on the work, value and challenges of the network. What we will monitor. So we're looking at the narrative. We want to understand the background of your network, the description of your features as well. So for example, a bit more about the geography, the population, the types of schools and colleges in your local area. The financial assurance. So this is the financial package as a whole, both income and expenditure. We want to be clear that the core funding or the flat rate funding has been used on the infrastructure as mentioned earlier, that the formulaic contributions have been arranged and spent appropriately, and also we would be interested to know whether you've been able to leverage funding from other sources so for example from your local LEP. We're also looking for confirmation and a description of your SPOC, your website, and how you work as a source of information to all schools and colleges. In terms of school engagement, we want to be clear that the primary aim of the network scheme is that we can reach every state-funded secondary school or college, and this means some form of relationship, and we would have liked you to have some contact with each school, whether that's just simply advertising your website and your features, just ensuring that schools know where to find this information. If there have been some changes due to duplication, and we're aware that some schools are working with a number of networks, then please can you let us know and we can make those changes. We also want to understand what you've achieved so far. And by this, we mean understanding that networks are coming from different places. So some have been established for a long time. Perhaps those who haven't been established for as long a period are taking a little while longer than originally planned to set up. What we want to know is about the progress you've made to date. So if you're a little bit behind schedule, or even if you have been able to achieve more than expected, please can you let us know? We're very interested in that information. We've also got a number of narrative questions about the added benefits, challenges and sustainability. And this will be an opportunity for you to review and revise your schools list and partners list so that our information and list remains current. As a result of the information you're sending through to us, we also hope to be able to update the school's linking tool.
This is Alex Lewis, and I'm going to talk you through the second half of the presentation. In this section, we will focus on the detail of the forms and how to go about filling them in. We first issued some draft monitoring forms with the award letters in March 2015. Since then, we've decided to change the process so that it takes place through the HEFCE extranet. This means that we can track the returns and analyse the forms more easily. The guidance on how to register for the extranet and download the forms was sent out by email to SPOCs on the 14th of September 2015, so if you haven't received this, please get in touch with us. The forms differ depending on whether you are a local network or a national network or a project. Both local and national networks have two forms to fill in: a written submission, which is in a Word format, and a data submission, which is in an Excel format. Projects just have one submission to fill out, and that's a Word submission. So, local networks will need to fill in Form A and Form C. National networks will need to fill in Form B and Form C, and projects will just need to fill in Form D. This slide focuses on how to use the HEFCE extranet to fill in your monitoring returns. An email was sent to SPOCs on the 14th of September, which included one attachment, which was general guidance for filling out the forms once they've been downloaded, another attachment, which was technical guidance on using the HEFCE extranet, and also a key within the email to enable you to access the extranet. The first thing you need to do is to go to the web address at the top of the slide. There you will need to register in order to use the HEFCE extranet. You will need to provide your name, email address, and to choose a password. You will also need the key that was sent in the email. Once you've registered, you will be able to click on the forms relevant to you, as shown on the table in the previous slide, and download them. You can then save the forms to your computer and fill them in at your own pace. When you have finished, you will upload the forms to the HEFCE extranet. If you have any technical difficulties, please refer to the technical guidance, and if you continue to have difficulties, please get in touch. We would advise making a start on the forms in good time, so that if there are any technical problems, they can be ironed out way before the deadline, which is Friday, 30th of October 2015. We will now look at the written submission for the local and national networks, which are Forms A and B. Just to say, before we go any further, that we know that all networks will be at different stages of development, and we welcome an honest view of where your network is at. Please do let us know if you have any issues or challenges, as patterns may emerge and we might be able to put support in place. Forms A and B vary slightly, but the main section headings are the same. Form A is for local networks, and Form B is for national networks. Section A asks for contact details. Section B asks for the background and overview of the network, the aims of the network, and the context of the network. For example, is it rural, coastal, or urban, and how does this impact on the way that the network operates? We're also interested in the infrastructure of the network. Section C asks for information regarding the network finances. We'll allow for unspent funds from 14-15 to be rolled over until 15-16. However, all HEFCE funds must be spent by December 31st, 2016. Initially, the government suggested that the scheme should only be 1 year, but we managed to stretch the funding so that it will cover 2 calendar years, January 2015 to December 2016. I'm afraid that we cannot stretch it beyond this point, and for this reason, we need you to have spent funds by December 2016. Any unspent funds will be recouped in or around January 2017. In this context, spent means spent and not just committed. Section D asks you about your network features, so we'd like confirmation that there is a SPOC in place and also that there is a functioning website. So this means that it's an interactive website as opposed to just a holding page with some contact details on it. This section also asks how the network is acting as a source of information to schools and colleges. We recognise that there will be different levels of engagement with different schools and colleges. Our baseline expectation is that the schools and colleges covered by your network know the contact details of your network and where to find out outreach information. Section E. This looks at the effectiveness of the network and the added value that the networks have brought compared to what was already in place. So, for example, is outreach information easier for schools to access? And is there less duplication in the outreach landscape? We might also use this section to identify case studies for our monitoring report, so please highlight any work of particular interest or any work that you consider to be innovative. The end of the form also asks for sign-off, so please ask senior management at your institution to sign off the form. This slide looks at Form C, which is the data return for local and national networks. If you're a national network, please only fill in the parts that are relevant to you. Table A asks for contact details, and this will be pre-filled. Table B1 looks at partner funding. We ask you to fill in the amount of formulaic funding that your institutional partners have committed to your network. This is all funding that they are contributing, however this is being utilised. So for example, it might be funding that they have agreed to pool, commit to joint projects, or use themselves on developments which have been agreed through the network. We ask you to complete this table with contributions up to the 31st of July 2015, i.e. to the end of the first year of the scheme. This should mean that the information you supply will be the same as that indicated in partners' institutions' letters of response to us at the start of the NNCO scheme, when they indicated the percentage of their formulaic allocation they would contribute to each network. Because a lot of institutions are members of more than one network, we will reconcile the amounts that partners are contributing across all the networks so that we can check that all formulaic allocations are being utilised through the NNCO infrastructure. Where figures don't reconcile to 100%, we will be in touch with the member institution. Table B2 asks for information on other network partners, such as charities and local councils. Table B3 asks about any changes to partners. Table B4 has been newly added since we issued the draft monitoring returns in August. This table asks about high-level expenditure. We need this additional information as BIS may request it at some point. Please note that whilst we are asking for funding figures up to 31st of July 2015 for partner contributions, we are asking for expenditure information up to 30th of September 2015. This is so that we can see the levels of expenditure so far achieved. We are also asking for a high-level spending forecast up to 31st of December 2016. This should be for the balance of the funding that the network will spend after 30th of September 2015, and so should include any underspend carried forward from the first year of the scheme. If you have expenditure going forwards, but you're unsure exactly what it will be committed to, then please either put it in the other line or get in touch with us if you're unsure. Table C asks about network coverage. Please see the guidance for details on how we came up with the list of schools that we've used here. Table D is a sign-off from senior management responsible at the lead institution. Please note that there is a validation tab on the spreadsheet, So if any red messages appear while you're filling in the tables, this tab should help you to understand why. I'm also aware that we haven't gone through any of the project forms. This is because projects only need to fill in Form D, and everything that we've gone through so far is relevant to that. So please do get in touch if you have any questions, but we hope that everything we've said so far for the local and national networks should help you fill in Form D. This slide goes through some important points to note. So, funds must be spent by 31st of December 2016, and this means spent and not just committed. In terms of case studies, if we want to use any of the information that you've provided in these returns for case studies in our monitoring report, we'll get in touch with you to ask permission. The deadline for these monitoring returns is the 30th of October. We'll be having a Q&A session on monitoring at our event in Birmingham on the 12th of October, so we hope to see you there. Whilst national networks are required to complete Form C, questions should only be answered if relevant. This slide provides an overview of the monitoring dates for the full length of the scheme. For Year 2, the monitoring end date is 31st of December 2016. The monitoring return date is 27th of January 2017. We're aware that SPOCs may have moved on at this point, so if this is likely to be the case, please feel free to submit the return earlier, or to prepare the form in advance for someone else in the team to submit. If you foresee any problems, please contact us as soon as you can to let us know. As part of the January return, we will seek financial assurance from the accounting officer of each institution that we have funded that funds have been used to support the network. The SPOCs will be asked to gather this information and return it to us. The only time we will ask for this information is in January 2017, so it's not something to worry about for this round of reports. Many thanks for listening, and if you do have any questions, please do get in touch. We really hope that you found this helpful.